most of you probably have been here before and are aware of the kind of format that this Architecture and Society series has. But I won't waste much time going into that, except to say that it was started as a discussion group amongst architects originally. But then, that became very closed world, elitist. And we wanted to then open up the architectural profession to their, to whom they're supposed to service, that is society in general. And the India Habitat Center was kind enough to offer us this space, which we could use monthly to run presentations, which we've been doing now, surprisingly enough, for over 4 years, every month. Now, today we have great pleasure in asking Tarun Sebastian Nanda to tell us about the work that he's been doing in Delhi. Especially, I learned about it by being told about the work he's doing in horse cars. But of course, he's done more than that. And Tarun is an environmental engineer. He's telling me now he was trained originally at the Imperial College in London. And he did work for a while, quite a while, in England. And then came to India. I'm not quite sure why, but he'll tell you that himself if he wants to. And has been conducting this extraordinary kind of, I would only call it a crusade, to try and do public work through private means, which is absolutely the opposite, generally speaking. This is a reversal of values and of systems for a citizen. But this is something which I believe is very, very important in our time, because unless citizens take action to create to relieve urban stress, we are just not going to be able to cope with the kind of conditions that our cities are sinking into. I say sinking because, cities are not improving. I've been living in Delhi since 1952, and that's over half a century, and it has got progressively worse. 50 years ago, New Delhi and Old Delhi were much better places to live in. And they weren't, you can't say that they were ideal, but they were much better places to live in. And in these 50 years, they're getting from bad to worse. It's getting really alarming, the pace at which the degradation of our urban systems is happening. Now, I can see that there are a lot of young faces amongst us, hopefully architecture students. So we hope that they will take some lesson from this extraordinary thing, which I think Tarun is doing, of, as a private citizen, taking initiative to do public work to benefit the community. So without further ado, I should ask Tarun to tell us his story. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. Thank you for inviting me to speak today. My name is Tarun. I'm a civil and environmental engineer, and I came to India almost 9 years ago now. The reasons aren't really entirely clear to myself exactly why I came here, but I was working for a long time as an engineer in England, and there it's very developed. There's very intense systems that you have to follow when you're designing, so it gets quite boring after a while. And I'd always visited India as a child, and so I thought I'd come here and see, sort of learn why it is the way it is and what can be done about it. So I'll start with the first, I came here, and then for the first year, I was sort of traveling around, working out what the problems were and what I could do. So I started small with a farmhouse in Delhi, where they have a big problem with the groundwater falling, and everybody still wants a green lawn. So there the need is to recycle the wastewater to a standard that's suitable for irrigation. So this was just a simple constructed wetland. Actually most of the water came from the servants' quarters because there were about 30 people living there, whereas in the farmhouse itself there was only 3. So the most water to recycle was available at the servants' quarters. But this was a very small project. I suppose I should explain that wetlands can actually purify water without the need for chemicals, without the need for machinery, and there's no electricity involved. And the main point is that there's no real maintenance or operation needed, which is one of the sort of main problems in India when it comes to infrastructure. So even if nobody touches this, it will keep working. So that was the first one. That was a long time ago, 2015. That was years ago now. And then after this one, I used this experience to do a slum project. I don't know how many of you have visited a slum, but if you go there, you will find that all their garbage ends up in one part, and it's normally the same part where all their sewage ends up. So on the top left, you can see what it looked like before. That sort of mat of garbage on the right side is actually the water body. But there's about 10 years worth of garbage has accumulated there. And so this actually, I met a local NGO, and they were looking to do something about it. But because you're also not allowed to use concrete in these kind of areas, you need a sort of temporary infrastructure. So we've used things like bamboo, compressed earth to make the structure itself on the bank. And this was actually the first time a constructed wetland had been used in a water body revival in Delhi. And since then, it's been, the same approach has been used by like Professor Babu in Neela House. NERI have done the same thing at Rajokri. Even the East Delhi Municipal Corporation, they're doing the same thing at Shadra. So it's a very easy way of sort of intercepting a drain, giving some natural treatment before it ends up in the water body. And by the end of the wetland, the water was coming out clean and all smell had been removed. And as you can see, the water body was now suitable for the water hyacinth to come up. And it was also the first time that floating islands, I think. So you can see the floating islands that we were used. They have been used in other parts of India, but it was the first time it was used in Delhi. And because I was also new to India at the time, I didn't realize the sort of abuse that they would have to take in the slums. So we've sort of developed the model as we've gone along to develop a sort of vandal-resistant, indestructible version. But now you see people using these kind of pipes because it's the easiest sort of model to follow. But I believe also in the newspapers today, I think they've been doing something with thermocol up in, with the North Delhi Municipal Corporation. And they've also used thermocol in other parts of India. But I strongly recommend not doing that because thermocol itself pollutes the lake. It gets eaten by the birds, the fishes, and eventually it will all deteriorate.